In 2025, real estate is a super hot topic, and a lot of people talk about it because there's not enough affordable housing, there's not enough supply and demand, and everything else under the sun. While insurance is skyrocketing, and you name it, it is making it harder and harder for people to get into the real estate market than it has ever been in the past. And so I'm still in South Lake Tahoe. Thank you so much for all my channel members. You were some of these people that actually made this happen. So I've asked you guys a few days ago, if you saved up and you bought your home, now they're building affordable housing next door. Are you okay with that? And 70% said no, and 30% said yes. And we're going to go over some of the comments, and I'm going to have a video for you guys in a little bit here. And if you want to be featured in one of my videos, and whenever I do polls like this, make sure to leave a thoughtful comment, and that's how I'm going to then feature you in one of my videos. And so the first comment is from Christie's channel, y'all. Nope. I live in what used to be really nice apartment complex. I've been there for 10 years and really like the place now. Now they rent to Section 8 and there's trash all over the place. Smells like all the time and is general a mess. I'm leaving as soon as my son graduates next year. I can't take it anymore. And this is just what people are dealing with on a day-to-day business when it comes to not in my backyard. And this is why 30% of you guys said, yeah, affordable housing should come next to me. 70% said no. And we're going to go and watch a video of somebody in Santa Monica basically saying the quiet part out loud. So let's check this out.
And we don't need any more affordable housing in Santa Monica. We really don't. I mean, if you can't afford to live in Santa Monica, then live where you can afford. I've been corresponding with a couple of you, and I'm trying to stay calm because you know how passionate I get about this subject. I've been living on Ashland Avenue in Santa Monica since 1996. It was my first home that I bought for myself. And it was great because the neighborhood is like Mayberry, and we like to keep it that way. We all know each other. We have a great community. We walk to our schools. We all know each other, and we stay together. And we are thoroughly against these out-of-state developers that are coming in and taking over these R1 lots. They tried to do it on Stanford, and we're fighting that as well. We had a beautiful family living there, and then the old woman died, and now a developer comes in and takes the house. Is that what you would want if you grew up in that house? We're fighting for 1230 Ashland, but we're fighting for the landscape of Sunset Park. And this is not affordable housing. These are $2 million units each. So, you know, yes, it's not $4 million what we're getting right now, but $2 million each, but we're going to fight it and we're going to win because we want to keep the landscape of R1 neighborhoods in Sunset Park the way they are. I have nothing against apartments. I lived in apartments in New York, in a cockroach-infested apartment in Queens when I couldn't afford to live in New York City. But when I could afford to live in New York City, when I worked hard and I earned my pay, no one handed me low-income housing. I earned it and I worked for it. And that's where I come from. I come from you aspire to buy a single-family home and you aspire to live in a neighborhood like Mayberry. So we're going to fight too because we've always been the stepbrothers to Santa Monica. You have so much development happening in Sunset Park. Why us? Why are you always picking on us? We love our community and we want to keep it that way. We want to know our neighbors and we don't need any more affordable housing in Santa Monica. We really don't. I mean, if you can't afford to live in Santa Monica, then live where you can afford. Just like if I want to live in Manhattan Beach, I can't afford to live there. If I want to live in Bel Air, I can't afford to live there. When I bought my house, it was $365,000 for a 900 square foot house.
Okay, so we saw this woman basically talking about that I bought my lot, now it's worth so much, and now I don't want affordable housing anymore because I just purchased. And this is the mentality that a lot of you guys have, 70%. And this is the rat race that everybody's trying to hop on. So when people tell you, you need to buy a house, you need to buy a house, this is the reason why they're saying to buy a house. And it used to be that if you have a certain amount of budget, you can totally go out and buy a house, and the house prices will keep going up because supply and demand and everything else. But now we are in a different world where insurance is coming to be really, really hard on everything. And so let's check out what insurance is doing in the state of California. So in the state of California, insurance basically asks people to do emergency increases ASAP. So what they're doing is they're saying that we need 2 emergency increases in the matter of no time. So what I've done is I took in a payment calculator and I said, I have $3,500 in budget to buy a house. And I put in $512,000 for a house. I know that's not a lot in California, but it's just what the average is. So if you have $3,500 to allocate towards your house, there is almost $2,700 in principal and interest, $500 in property taxes. I didn't put in any HOA, and I took the average homeowners insurance, and that is $218 a month. So now if you have that in your calculator, you have that as a budget, and I know some of you guys don't budget, but most of us have a budget even if we do not say it out loud. And now let's say insurance is going to keep rising. And if you're not going to keep on making raises every month or every 6 months or every year, however much these insurance companies are doing rate hikes, your budget is going to be moving into the next category: eating out, car budget, everything, because you have $3,500, and it is slowly chipping away at other budgets in your finances. And if you're going to then buy another house or do something else, then you have to literally think about, what am I going to do to afford this place? Am I going to take another job? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Because you only have $3,500 to spend. And most people then say, oh, I only have $3,500, so the prices have to come down because I'm not able to afford more than $3,500 a month. And this is why these people are so mad if you're going to buy this place or this place, and then they'll say down the road we're going to put affordable housing, because that's going to put downwards pressures on your house, because it's going to smell like this other lady said about the plants. This is going to be bad for my value and everybody else's, so they're going to fight it tooth and nail. And so if you haven't liked and subscribed, please help me out. It doesn't cost you anything, and it would really help me out. And if you would hit that like button, that would really support the channel. And so when you're looking at buying houses, you're trying to set your family up for success, and people say, all these realtors online say, you need to buy, you need to lock in that rate, you need to buy today because you won't be able to afford it tomorrow. Like 60% of Americans have their net worth tied up in their house, or it's like 49 to like 60%, depending on what kind of sources you look at. And now all of a sudden, if insurance is creeping up and property taxes because of home values is creeping up, and then your house prices is going up, but nobody's buying, and then all of a sudden we're seeing the home values coming down, that's going to hurt your pocket. And people say, oh, everything is fixed. The only thing that's fixed is your mortgage. If you have a fixed rate, if you have a 30-year fixed interest rate, that's the only thing that is fixed, because everything else is going to cost you if you have repairs. And then if you have to take out homeowners insurance, or if you have to take out a home warranty because you cannot afford to spend money on getting other stuff fixed. So as you're seeing, the cost is constantly on the rise. And when it comes to NIMBY, not in my backyard, there are so many people that say, I bought today and I do not want any cheap affordable housing coming next to me because I need to protect my assets. And whenever I look at that, I can understand where these people are coming from, because you can't just go out and buy a home most of the time. You need to sacrifice, and this is what I tell my audience all the time. You gotta save up. You gotta take on an extra job. You gotta get that down payment ready. You gotta do it. You gotta work for it. And once you've done it, it gives you a feeling of accomplishment. And this is what we're talking about on my channel all the time. You got to do something special to be able to afford a house these days. And I know a lot of millennials bought during COVID. They moved. And I told them back then, do not move to these hot areas. And I was always one of them that moved to Cape Coral during COVID. Everybody was remote. And now you're seeing those places, $600,000 houses that are going for $300,000-$400,000 because people need to move back. And now there's so much supply that the people just aren't buying. And now insurance is coming in and basically giving the gut punch and the knockout, because if you want to buy a house and the insurance or the mortgage company is going to say, we want insurance because we need to protect ourselves. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm paying a lot in insurance. And now it's like, man, I can't afford to pay $600,000-$700,000 on top of another $10,000-$15,000 with insurance and everything else. And then they're like, I can't do that. And so then the only logical thing you as a seller is to lower prices. And in Santa Monica, you have fire insurance and everything else, and it is probably not as much as it is at the Gulf Coast of Florida because of hurricanes and everything. But fire is still an issue, and it is still very, very expensive. And so if you are thinking about home ownership and everything else, you got to make sure that you buy at a place that you can afford, and make sure that there's not that many natural disasters, because if there's going to be more natural disasters, it's going to cost you more in the long run. And if there's going to be corrosion on the coastlines and your house is going to be in the path of hurricanes, it might be that your house is going to get wiped out in the next few years or in the next decade. And that means that insurance has these models now with AI, and so they can say exactly when it's going to experience a flood. And Redfin has that tool where it says there's going to be a flood or something else in that area, and you have to pay for it. And they're slowly creeping up the insurance because it was very, very calm the last 10, 15 years. And whenever I look at why is it, there's a lot of reasons why we're seeing more storms, more severe weather. Some say it's because of these AI data centers are doing cloud seeding. They use so much water, they suck the air dry and everything else. You kind of pick and choose what you want, but I'm telling you here, just the financial standpoint, it's just brutal to see that once these storms are getting stronger and more houses are getting wiped out, car insurance is going to go up. Everything is going to go up. And you have to make more money to support your house. And if you cannot support your house, then you got to sell it. You got to give it back to the bank. You got to walk away from it. And this is why I'm telling you, if you're in a high risk area, you need to really, really know what you're doing. And you need to really think about, is this something that I want to do? And if you're going to buy in a place and then there's going to be affordable housing, it's going to really ding you and hurt you. And this is what happened to me in my house in Santa Cruz. I had a townhouse, and all of a sudden, 2 months after I sold, they announced that they're doing transitional housing in my backyard. And everybody else got super upset about that I left, and they did not. So this is another thing, not in my backyard. And I used to see turkey in my backyard. I used to see deer all the time. And then they said, you know what, we're going to build Project Homekey. You can look it up. This is right where I lived. And there are now funding issues and everything else. So it is looking like a half-done construction project. And these are just the problems that are facing in the housing market today. And so when people say, oh, in the long run, you might be good, just buy today and don't worry about it. Those people do not understand math, and these people do not understand that there's climate changes coming. Call it global warming, call it whatever you want. But be aware, if you buy in a high impact area where there's water rises, that there's issues with hurricanes, with floods, with fire, that insurance is lagging. And insurance is doing everything they can to get that rate up to as high as possible. And I don't think boomers or Gen Xers and everybody else had that problem as millennials, Gen Zs, and the next generation is going to have. And so now, if you have a $3,500 budget, and all of a sudden, most of that money is going to be wiped out or used up by insurance, how much can you really afford? And then from the $3,500, and let's say $1,000 a month is going to go towards insurance, then how much is left for your mortgage and how much is going to be your home value? Because if you're going to keep creeping that up, your house prices is keep kind of going down. And so now I'm asking you, do you think that homes in these impact areas are going to still be these investments that we've seen throughout the last 10, 20, 30 years? Or do you think that these investments, these homes, these primary residents are kind of on the low end of investments, and you just got to live somewhere, and you're going to see it less as an investment, just as a housing opportunity? Because for me, whenever I look at investments, they got to get me an ROI. And whenever you look at ROIs, it is rate on investment. And whenever you look at stuff like that, you got to make money from it. And whenever I look at investments, I look at business, I look at the financial stuff. And whenever you say, oh, my house is an investment, then you cannot put in a better stove just because it looks nicer or it does nicer. Because you're not going to get more money out of that house just because you put in a pool, you put in nicer pumps, you put in all these kind of other stuff. No, because it's just going to make your house more desirable, but it isn't going to give it more value. And let me know if you think like that, because if you're doing stuff in the real estate world, then you would see that these condos have the nicest furniture ever. No, they're making it so it is smart for them, that they get a ROI on their money. Because at the end of the day, a stove that works is a stove that works. It doesn't have to be G monogram. It doesn't have to be the nicest one. It could just be a Samsung stove or something else, right? And so I'm curious to hear what you think about it. But yeah, this is what we're dealing with in the real estate world today. People are saying, not in my backyard. I don't want affordable housing. And once you're in it, you want to protect it. You don't want to have people messing with your property. And I've seen other people that answered the poll that said, I just bought houses way out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, so I won't have that problem. And this is just another thing that people are saying, I don't want to take the chance. I don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden you see that these places that have affordable housing aren't run right because of all these crazy laws that they got nowadays, where it's got to be so diverse, it's got to have so and so many people in it, it's got to have all these things, and it's basically taking these good people that don't want to take advantage of the system, that are going to be left out. And these people that skim the system, trash the places, will still get a place to stay because they know how to do the paperwork. They know their rights. They know how to do it. And these other people that don't want to live in those places and could actually do it and would take care of the property, they're not going to do it. So another day, another dollar, right? And it is just the world we're living in. And you got to be aware of, where am I buying? What am I doing? Because when I sold my house, my townhouse in SoCal, and they've put up the Project Home Key that I was telling you guys, nobody knew. This was like a night and shadow operation in California, where the water district, the state, and the county all approved it. And the guy that actually bought my house was a county inspector, and he should have knew, but he said, hey, I'm going to think about suing you, because when all that happened, he was like, you must have knew. And I said, I didn't know. But, lawsuits happen all the time. And so they were looking at, is there money to be had? And can we do that? Can we take money from them because of it? And this is another thing, when people have opinions, people have ideas, and if their ideas and their opinions don't really line up, they go to lawyers and see if there's something to be had. And then they spend $4,000 or $5,000 and sue somebody, trying to make up for that lost money. And so these homeowners did not sue me, because it would have been really hard for them to prove that I knew about it. And I frankly didn't know about it, because how could I, if that guy works at the city or at the county as a county inspector, and I didn't even, he was closer at the source than I was, and how could have I known, right? But yeah, this is just another scenario where homeowners, where people just getting squeezed out, and people don't want to say the quiet part out loud because it's super unpopular opinion. And I think there needs to be a fine line, a fine middle ground. But yeah, people don't want it, and I get why, because people, like the first comment I read, they're saying, oh, you can't do it, you can't, you don't want to be smelling that flower taste all the time. You don't want people around you that jeopardize or are a bad influence on your kids. You want to be knowing your neighbors. You want to know that they're going to come back from school safe without all that kind of stuff. So I get the points that she's making, but yeah, this is just homeownership 101. Once you're in, you don't want your neighbor to sell cheaper. You don't want anything else to happen to your close area, because it's hitting you in the wallet. It's hitting you where it hurts. So yeah, this was it. Thank you all for supporting me on my journey to 10,000. Now I'm on the road to 50,000. See what's gonna happen. And yeah, in South Lake Tahoe, heading home tomorrow. Gotta go back to work. Gotta keep the money coming in to make these videos, doing all this kind of other stuff. So I appreciate you guys so much. If you haven't and you thought this was valuable, this was good, let me know. And please like and subscribe. And if you guys want me to answer your comments, make sure you hit that bell notification, and whenever I post, we can have interactions. I've always sit at the computer once I upload for like 45 minutes and respond, and we can have actual conversations. I respond once or twice or 3 or 4 times. So make sure that you leave a comment right from the get-go when the video comes up so we can have conversations. So let me know, and I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.